was almost pre-mixing. You know, it's just more so about the play selection, and I kind of think that's where it kind of took me. That play selection was probably equally or even more important than all of the skills to just kind of keep you around. But it started from that. So, as each stage kind of came, you were at the ground level of, the first time you heard somebody scratch, first time you heard somebody really blend records to the point that it was seamless that you didn't know. So just, all of that, just being there on ground zero, you just kind of wanted to know everything that everybody was doing when they were doing it.
You don't want to say what year you started?
You know what? Like, the crazy thing is, I'm going to be 50 in January. So I started when I was 10.
10 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
What's the biggest change that you've seen in 40 years?
Technology. I mean, change is inevitable.
Yeah.
Technology is definitely has been one of the biggest things. Like, it's from a production side and also from a DJ side. We're doing things now that 30 years ago was inconceivable.
Yeah, people thought it was
so, like just the ability, the idea of Serato is mind-boggling from where I came from. So just to kind of be able to see all of that, and a lot of it is just keeping your mind, open to new things. Like, nothing is ever going to stay the same.
I have a question. Which scratch you invented, the chirp, or was it another one? Which scratch you invented?
Probably the chirp.
The chirp. And that's
Transform. I was going to ask him about that.
You want to show
Where did the transform? A
How?
lot of like arguments about the transform, about this right here. Who first?
The first person to do anything remotely similar was a DJ from Philly named Spin Bass. Okay. He was the first person that anybody seen do anything like that and bring it back.
Gotcha.
That was the whole thing. It's like, you can do it forward, but he was the one that did it forward and brought it back, and did it forward and brought it back. But it was no rhythm to it. And basically what I did, and what guys like Cash did, is basically add the rhythm to it.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. So that's I know Spin Bad actually.
Yeah.
Not that Spin Bad.
Oh shit, okay.
No,
Not
Chris. It's another guy in
Gotcha.
Philly. He used to actually DJ for BBD.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Tour you doing? On tour?
Yeah, on tour. Yeah.
So you invented the chirp. Anything else you invented?
You know what it is? I never looked at I don't look at the invention of everything, because I kind of think that everything is birthed from something else. It's kind of like,
Word up.
What Theodore did was a version of everything that everybody is doing. That is kind of like, this is this, and you take this and you add this to it, and it just keeps going and keeps going and going and going. But if you trace everything back, that was Theodore in his bedroom.
So you could technically say, without no trip, there'd be no more flare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, all of it, and it's crazy because, if you're not already there, what you'll understand that the differences in different scratches and different techniques can be as simple as a fader movement. It can be as simple as you lagging this hand just a little bit that will slice the sound in half, that will allow you to do twice the work with less energy.
I try to instill that in students as early as I can. To tell them that we're very good. We can only go forward and back, and only open and close.
Yeah.
It's just variations of everything, different timings.
That's it.
Small things, all things.
When you was coming up, did you notice like a difference from like, I don't want to say like coast to coast, but like I guess coast to coast. Like a Philly cat may do something different than Chicago.
Absolutely. But you know what? It wasn't, when you were coming up, you weren't thinking about what somebody was doing in California, because it was all about what you were doing in your region. And it wasn't until it started to kind of get bigger and you start traveling to different areas. Because I remember the early days with I remember the early days with Will and I doing shows in Virginia, and I did a DJ routine, and it might have been 10 DJs on stage that were going crazy, and it was 16,000 people looking at me like I was crazy. Because they had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
Like, it was almost like the Back to the Future, where it was kind of like you do something and they're kind of like, and it was like, oh shit, you don't get it yet. Like you don't, you know what I mean?
5 years later, they were like, oh, I
Yeah.
saw that.
So a lot of it is you have to educate the people to what you're doing. Because sometimes, and I know DJs now that, you know, Revolution is a very good friend of mine. And I think, I've always said Revolution was too good. Revolution was too technical. I used to always tell him, I was just kind of like, you do shit that blows people's minds so much that no one gets it. You know, and he's there. You know, him, Cuba, there's a bunch of guys that are from somewhere else. You know, so it's just, you know, it's kind of like you go to California and you realize that all of the DJs in California were doing everything at 120 BPMs. And you never went over 95 in Philly. You know.
When you started touring, what did you know about like Chicago DJs? What did you notice?
Well, you know, Chicago was always known for house. It was always known for house. I mean, always had very good DJs. You didn't really start getting into a lot of the hip hop DJs, I think, until a lot of the DMCs, when you start realizing that there were people from different regions that were doing it. People knew about, Philly DJs, you knew about New York DJs. There were a couple of guys in Atlanta that people knew about. There were a couple of guys in Miami that people knew about, in LA. But everywhere else in the country was a mystery until it just started popping up. It was pretty much good DJs everywhere.
What you say about house?
There you go.
I love this track. It's long time.
Was there anybody who was like a major influence that you was like, oh man, like you saw him do something, you were home and was like, how you do that? I gotta get it. I gotta.
You know what it was? When I started, it was kind of the beginning of when people were doing it. So you didn't really have anybody to look ahead. I mean, you looked at guys like Grandmaster Flash, but it was kind of like we were developing techniques. We were kind of like the first wave of people developing techniques. I think more than anything was there was a period in time that I got really deep into the studio and didn't pay attention to what was going on. And it was almost like I put my head down for 3 years and lifted my head up, and Rock Raider was out.
Wow.
And it was kind of like, then you're looking like, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
doing? Like, that's impossible, you know.
Yeah.
And then I started getting cool with all of those guys. What you saw was what you did. They took and it was gone.
Right.
It was gone, and that's still happening now.
Is that any of skills in Virginia?
You know what? I knew skills from just being out, and we kind of bumped into each other. We would see each other from time to time, and we bumped into each other in Miami at Winter Music. And he was just like, yo, man, you on the road, you doing all the rest of this, man, it'd be cool if we hook up and do some stuff. And, just went out, and 13 years later.
It's pretty incredible. Any other questions? Jason, you gotta have questions.
Got a few. So, battles. Any that you entered and won? I know there's at least one.
You know what's funny? I was not the really big battle guy. I went through the battle circuit one time and didn't go back. And I did.
Didn't you win
I did
New Music Center?
New Music, did DMC. Right. I actually did DMC USA and was too sick to go to DMC World.
Oh.
And the funny thing is the guy who I would have battled in DMC World was the guy that I beat in the seminar.
Ah.
Chad Jackson. He was
Oh shit! Wow! Holy shit! Comes with the football.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was just, I was just kind of, I was more of the fan. Like, you did that in the beginning to kind of get your name out, and then, then it was kind of like, yo, you end up being cool with a lot of these guys.
Of course.
And then the whole record thing just kind of turned everything around.
Wow.
I got a question. I watched a lot of your YouTube videos, and I noticed like you be real relaxed. What, like me starting out, how do you knock that edge off when you just relax and you can listen to the music and
It's just doing it. It's repetition. You do anything long enough, it'll get to the point that you can almost do it with your eyes closed. It's kind of like, if pay attention to a really good drummer, pay attention to a really good keyboard player. Like, they're not like this. They're, it's kind of like it's second nature. And you gotta make it a habit. You gotta make it routine. You get it to the point that you kind of know, you know what you're doing, or your hands know what they're doing without you even thinking about it.
Glad you said that, because that's what we're always preaching. It's just repetition and repetition, especially
Yeah,
with
yeah.
scratching. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it is.
Also, drilling comes understanding.
Yeah.
Understanding comes creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta make it a habit. You know.
yeah, everybody I see they be most best good DJs, they be real relaxed. Just I was like, man, if they do that, I'm listening to the music, I'm trying to listen to the beat, I'm trying to, and then be relaxed and still.
You'll watch it change. The more you do it, you'll watch it change.
I got one. What has your DJing taught you in production and vice versa?
Well, it was definitely DJing first. But I think more than anything was listening to records, saying, how did they do that? Kind of got me into, I want to figure out how they did that, and I want to learn how they did that, and then I want to do that. And then just trying to put the two together. And that goes into, how does it sound, how does it feel, all of the nuances of the record. Like, I wasn't just listening to the music to be listening to it. You were listening to kind of know it, know every part, because especially these are records, these aren't files. And
Right.
one of the things that I think, especially like with Serato, to be able to jump around with cue points sometimes doesn't allow you to learn the record from beginning to end. Like, when it's gonna end, how many bars the intro is. Like, you knew this is an 8-bar intro, and this is an 8-bar bridge that I want to bring it in. I can bring them both in at the same time. As soon as the bridge is over, this song is coming right on. Like, you start learning and counting, and and you get. But all of that is just you understanding and learning the records that you're playing.
So in other words, it just taught you that whole arrangement of how to do
Absolutely.
production.
You learn, and the funny thing is you learn without knowing the technical terms. You didn't really look at it like this was the intro of the record. You said to yourself, the beginning of the record is this long. You didn't even realize that this long was 8 bars. You just knew and you felt that this is how long it is, and that how long it is exactly how long this part is. So if I do them both at the same time, they're gonna automatically blend together and it's gonna seem seamless. And then as it went on, you started understanding that these are bars and how do you count bars and clap on beat and the time signatures and all the rest of that.
Any other questions?
That's what they teach you, song mapping, right? The intro, the body.
Yeah. But a lot of that is learning it, not just counting it. It's learning it. It's like, I know this song. You know what I mean? Like, you go from back in the day when you would have to mix records that weren't done on drum machines, that you knew the break of this record, 3.5 bars in, the break gets slow. So in order to blend it, I gotta blend it, and 3.5 bars in, I have to speed it up to keep it at the right tempo. When you start understanding that these are how these disco records are, and this is how I have to mix them, and you do all of that by memory. You don't write on the label, slows down at, this is what this is, and you have to do that.
It's good to know the songs. Good to know that.
Intimately.
I don't know about anybody else, but can I take a picture of you?
Absolutely.
It was at the tip of my tongue. I'm like, man.
Like, I don't know about anybody else.
Mr. Jazz, Mr. Jazz.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I ain't that old.
Who were your favorite, like, back in, like, you feel like 89 to early 90s, who were your favorite DJs back then?
Like when? Time
I would
period.
say 89 to like 90.
89 to 91.
So like one of the creative stuff that I have. Cross technique.
Just got Atlanta DJ Man. I'm trying to know. Man, shit.
That's pretty specific.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
That was deep.
Funny story. My wife went to school with your wife.
Oh, okay.
She was like, she saw the picture, she was like, man, she married this guy that looked familiar, she married, I went to school with her. You know, her page, she like, man, where I know this guy from, where I know this guy from. So I'm looking past the laptop, I'm like, are you serious? That's the first person? Yeah. She's like, oh, okay.
And with the
Can we get
change in technology,
we get a group shot?
with the change in technology, like, what do you use as far as production? Like, what seems close to home for you coming from like the generation that you do?
Let me tell you now, I'm a geek, so I have used everything under the sun. And it's just about what makes you comfortable. You know, you get guys like Premier that pretty much almost never changed what he used from the first time he started. You get guys like, you know, Pete Rock, who may have changed once or twice. And then you get people like Just Blaze, who's up on everything new. You know, a lot of it is just what makes you comfortable. You know, I'm one of those people that is, you know, I've used everything under the sun, you know, and just, I've always been on a quest of what do I like, what makes me comfortable. Right now, I don't use anything but Ableton.
Yeah.
So, you, Serato, Franco,
Serato.
Who are your favorite producers now?
You know, the typical Premier, Pete Rock, like you know, I like a lot of the guys who have a level of consistency. And then I like people who have very distinct sounds. I like DJs who have distinct sounds. I like producers who have distinct sounds. You know, when you start getting to the jack of all trades, it's kind of like, I don't really know what to put my finger on. I mean, which I think is a talent in itself. You know, but I really like distinct, like I know that sound. I know a Timberland sound.
Right.
I know it's him, you know.
Yeah.
Timberland was your sign.
Yeah.
We'll get a, you want to take a picture?
Let's take a group shot with
Yeah.
them, if it's cool.